Today we've come back to one of my old hunting grounds, Ebbw Vale, and we've come to visit the Ebbw Vale Works Archives Trust. Now this is the place where the history of lots of steel and iron making in the South Wales valleys is kept and looked after and curated. And brilliant today to meet up with an old colleague of mine, Malcolm Davies. Now Malcolm, you worked here for many years. When were you here? Remind me?
I'm still a young lad. I started in 1970 and finished with the closure in 2002.
Wow.
But the steel industry didn't get rid of me because I went to Llanwern and Talbot for a couple of years. So, I've seen Ebbw Vale go from a major, fully integrated plant to a tinplate and galvanising plant. So I've seen a lot of history here.
And this is a fantastic building we're in, and I remember this as the Works Manager's Office. So, back in the 90s, even then, it had some gravitas to it, and you came through the door with some trepidation. But the Works Archives Trust hasn't always been here, Malcolm. Tell me how it landed here.
It actually started here, Tim, in 1998, where a works manager, Andy Dunbar, with a lot of foresight, could see the amount of history that was retained in Ebbw Vale, and he gave them a large office here to three guys who were about to retire to start an archive, and it's grown from there. They had to leave for a few years when the works closed. They came back here in 2012, and we're very proud of it because it is definitely the most comprehensive archive of the steel industry in South Wales. Yeah,
it's an amazing place, and I regret now not having visited before. But around us we can see lots of the old photos of the place. I know we've been showing some videos, and there's some mementos in there, former paintings of former directors, and old internal newspapers. It's a hell of a collection. Of course, the history of Ebbw Vale itself goes back a long way, doesn't it, Malcolm?
Some of the earliest documents we've got are back in the 1780s, with the original lease when the land for the first blast furnaces were taken up by the company. Obviously, photographically, we're somewhat limited by the advent of photography, not in that era, but we've tens of thousands of photographs starting from the early days of the first Bessemer in the middle of the 19th century, up until 2002 when we closed. And documentation, so much that probably about 50% of our collection is stored in the Gwent archives. We're very fortunate in that.
Yeah,
and we're taking on new material all the time. People are finding it in attics and drawers, and we welcome it in here just to retain it rather than being burnt.
Yeah, quite right too, and good on you, because I guess over the centuries lots of steelworks in Wales have closed, and the material that's left of them has kind of coalesced into this central archive. And you were telling us earlier about it's kind of focuses largely on Ebbw Vale, but the Richard Thomas and Baldwin family of companies, so that includes lots of other local works as well, doesn't it?
Yes, obviously the company has gone through a number of iterations. This works was built by the Richard Thomas, which became Richard Thomas and Baldwin's. And for many years, this was the jewel in the crown of Richard Thomas and Baldwin's before they then built what was the new super plant at Spencer Works in Newport, which unfortunately has gone a similar way to Ebbw Vale, though fortunately the coal mill still survives there.
Yeah, I was going to say lots of people in Llanwern will be up in arms saying, listen, we're still here, there's a few hundred of us still left keeping the place going, arguably creating some world-class automotive products. But, South Wales used to have hundreds of steelworks and ironworks, and there's fewer and fewer. And isn't it fantastic that you guys have managed to keep that collection in place? And, the thing that kind of makes me smile and amazes me as we've been walking around today is it's like every picture you look at, every piece of paper you turn over, every video you watch, everything on a shelf or on the wall has a story behind it. You were showing us a chair earlier. Tell us about the chair, Malcolm.
Well, we have a chair here. It was actually came from the Ironmaster's house, Ebbw Vale House. And in 1917, the then general manager welcomed the future King Edward VIII and his entourage. And they had lunch in the Ebbw Vale House, which at that time was a hospital, World War I hospital. And they identified the chair that he sat on. And we still have that chair in the museum. It's known as the Royal Seat of Ebbw Vale, which hopefully we will retain for posterity.
Yeah, listen, Malcolm, I could talk to you all day, and I think we're going to come back and we're going to do a longer episode and talk to you and some of your colleagues here at the Works Archive Trust, because it is truly an amazing place. The amount of information here And the message is out there. Listen, come and visit. If you've not been to the Works Archives Trust in Ebbw Vale, come and visit. It's an amazing place. If you're clearing out your attics and you find some old stuff, then let them know, because heaven forbid this stuff ends up in the skip and we never see it again. And I know you've got limited space here, Malcolm, and limited funds to do stuff with, but fair play to you guys for doing what you do. And I guess probably also looking for more volunteers here, Malcolm.
We're certainly looking for volunteers. That surprisingly, with a huge workforce, we are short of volunteers. So anyone out there who's prepared to do a little bit of work or talk to visitors, they're very, very welcome.
Listen, fantastic, Malcolm. Thanks very much for welcoming us here today. I can't wait to come back. Yeah. And like I say, if you haven't visited, you need to come and have a visit. It's an amazing place. Keep your eyes peeled, because we're going to be back and we're going to have a longer chat with Malcolm and some of his colleagues in the next couple of months.